I realized that when I do all these extra things, people like it. And people remember me for the extra things I do. They don't actually remember me for the code that I write.
There's something called luck surface area, and people are like, you can increase the chances of meeting more people, meeting more interesting people, doing interesting things, just enriching your life by doing good things, doing interesting things, and then also talking about it.
I was in my first year and I was learning Python, and after a month I was a bit disappointed. I was not able to figure out how to actually create a class in Python, and disappointed. So I asked my brother, how much time does it take to learn Python? And his response is still stuck in my mind. He said, I'm still learning. And it's exactly opposite of how our education system works. So it's very important that you're working on the things that the business prioritizes, right? I feel like that's something a lot of engineers make a mistake. They think, hey, they're there to write code.
You have to think about like, what can I do which maximizes the impact.
You were working with a professor in University of Nevada. What was the project about? Why should I write poetry when all that matters?
Hi,
We just spent 2 hours setting this up.
Yeah.
It was fun. But tell me, Nishant.
Yeah, should I tell you about the Blinkit order we just did?
Yeah, like what? Anyone who doesn't know, so we have got 2 tripods over here, and we're trying some things where we would put a study table, couple of books, hold the iPhones we have.
Yeah.
They found this 6-minute delivery. That's insane. That's the world we live in, 2025. Yeah. What do you feel about living in 2025?
भाई साहब, grateful in many sense. जैसे कि I kind of think like I'm more rich in many senses than like a lot of kings from past. Like suppose they had a fever and they will just suffer for days, and I can just eat a medicine and be like good, be healthy, be happy. Suppose they want to talk to somebody, they will just wait. Maybe there's a romantic sense in waiting and all, but then you can like just call them up right now and just talk.
But this was possible in 2020 or 2000, right? What's so special about 2025?
Okay, so definitely in 2025, so
Blinkit.
we've got Blinkit, Zepto. God. We were about to order PlayStation using Blinkit.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so guys, for of course we ordered these tripods in 5 minutes. So much unpaid sponsorship for Blinkit, man. Shit.
Maybe they will sponsor, one day. So welcome everyone to the best AI podcast starting today. I think it's good. People should share it out what they're trying to do, even if it's not true right today, because that sets a goal, right? For example, if you're building a product, and you should say this is going to be the most disruptive way of doing this, even if it's not today, right? Because that's what you're signaling to everyone. But anyway, welcome to the best AI podcast in India, and that's very important. I'm joined by Mr. Nishant Nikhil over here. Mr. Nishant Nikhil has been... We have known each other since 2014.
Yeah,
so it's been 10 years.
More than 10 years.
It's been more than 10 years. And we have spent... It feels like every year we meet and we do something together. It's very... So either it's like GSOC, either it's in college, exploring certain experiences.
Yep.
Is how I would put it. Or let's say doing an internship.
Yeah.
In it was your first time in US, my first time in US. What was it, man? You went to Las Vegas, you went to a university and did some research. Like, how did you land in Las Vegas?
In a very salesy terms, it's cold emails. But then I think I just wanted to be at a place where I can just do good research work. And then I went to CVPR recent publications, and then I found like, hey, these professors are active and they are like actually publishing papers. And that time I realized, like, hey, maybe if I mail few of these professors whose work I really, really appreciate, maybe someone will reply to me, and that will open some doors for me.
What was you emailing? Were you saying that, hey, I like your work, or were you also doing a little bit of, hey, this is what I think you're headed into, and this is how you can contribute?
Yeah, so I mean, like, almost everyone who is doing cold mails, if they are not making it personalized, it's just bad manners. I mean, if you want to work with someone, so you should show them, like, hey, you can create value for them, and at least you should devote some time for reading about them. And also, like, it's very much pertinent, right? Like, you're going to work there with that person for a couple of months of your life, and time is a scarce resource, isn't right? So you should know, like, what kind of work they're doing. So what I used to do is, like, I used to read a lot of papers. So I'll read their papers, and then I'll get to know, oh, they're working in this domain, and this is how this relates to what I am doing, and maybe I can contribute in this manner. And that's what my mail was. Like, every mail, it's just personalized. I won't be doing like thousands of mails a day. It'll be like couple of mails every day. But even though some of the professors won't reply, but just reading all those papers, I think was doing a foundation work for me that time.
Yeah, you started this paper reading club, I remember.
Yeah.
Mr. Rahul Mishra was part of it.
Yeah, Rahul Mishra was part of it. Arnav Jain, one of our seniors, were part of it. And then a lot of juniors were part of it. Shivans.
I think it's a beautiful thing. Because I've not read a paper like that seriously ever. I've tried. So I'm not that sort of person. But you have always, and I know researchers do that all the time. But you are someone else, man. Like, you are halfway applied, halfway researcher, which is, in my opinion, the best place to be at in today's world, right? You because research tells you to be okay with all the unknowns and to be up to date with all the research that's happening, even if it might not be proven today. You know it will happen. But you have. So I remember one of the things you used to do was you would read a paper and you would put up the code for it.
Yeah.
Who told you to do that? Like, how did that idea come into your mind?
I don't know. I think. So I always had this. There was this thing going on in just science that research is not reproducible, and deep learning was like kind of a new thing there, because like actually deep learning started in the actual new wave started in 2012 with this research paper AlexNet. But yeah, we can go there a little later. So yeah, a lot of things were just not out there, and like putting your work out there just creates this thing that someone else can work on it, someone else can give you feedback, and feedback is just scarce. Especially in Kharagpur, it was a bit scarce. So when you put these things out there, you are putting it out there, and you just get a lot of feedback. So I saw a lot of people who were in the PyTorch community or the Theano community. So there was this framework called Theano, which is precursor to both PyTorch and TensorFlow. I have coded it in Theano also. It's like it's like working in C before even before C++. So yeah, that's why like a lot of people were just putting these foundational thing out there, and then so on. So that's how I picked it up.
So deep learning. So it's very interesting. So let's talk about some of the key milestones that happened in AI, right? And we'll use the word AI intentionally, right? Even though it means a lot of things, it's a marketing word, but we'll use it because ultimately what people are trying to do is create some sort of intelligence that is active, understanding things, trying to mimic how brain works, right? So that's it. Now, one of the first things that I remember in studying this field is recognizing digits was a big thing. So you have got some digits 0 to 9, you feed some images, and some sort of thing called neural network will tell you the next time you write a digit that it's either one of this. So my understanding was it doesn't know what it actually is. All it tells you is there's high probability that it's 2 or 3 and 2%, 3%. Like it's very interesting to think about, because it doesn't really understand what this number means. But it understands that out of these 9 things, it means this. So if you remember this Silicon Valley's app that Jimmy Yang created, hot dog or not hot dog, and that makes sense because it can tell you this or that. But in today's world, it sounds like AI is doing this on millions or millions of things. That what is this thing? It is able to reason a bit. Okay, so that was the first milestone, in my opinion. Neural network, backpropagation. What was the second thing? And that made impact on humanity, because now if people are writing digits, like you take a picture and you can feed it into the database, and you can, using this, you can create exam reading, answer sheet reading machines out of this number. What is your answer, right? So what was the second milestone, right?
So,
or what are the milestones in your mind?
Yeah, it's kind of like pertinent to think about AI in terms of like a string of events. So, of course, it starts with Alan Turing. Everything starts with Alan Turing. And then, of course, the thing you talk about, this is called MNIST dataset, the handwritten digits recognition. So, this was actually, this came through Jan LeCun. He recently won a Nobel Prize. Yeah, I think he won a Nobel Prize along with Geoffrey Hinton. So they got this thing in 90s working, and then the second thing which is very major is the creation of the ImageNet dataset. So people always talk about like these models and how fancy they are, but actually you need datasets for like even judging them, like are they becoming effective or not. So there was this ImageNet dataset which was created by I think Phi Lee, and then it's early 2000s maybe. I'm not sure about that.
So ImageNet dataset.
Yeah.
What is it? Is it a collection of images?
Yeah, it's like collection of images and their particular class. So it's like there will be a image of airplane, and it will say like, hey, it's an airplane. So
manually किसी ने
right.
अच्छा.
किसी ने manually ये किया. And I don't know, like थोड़ा सा smart तरीके से किया होगा कि they will have searched Google for airplane, Google images में जो airplanes आए, जो tags लोग दे रखे हैं, e-tags, और उसके हिसाब से they get those images. But I think there will still be a lot of manual labor there. तो ये हुआ, and then people were trying these classical machine learning algorithms like SVMs, and the accuracy was somewhere around like 50%. And then through Geoffrey Hinton's lab, there was this guy called Alex, named Alex, and he realized that there's NVIDIA GPUs coming up, which can do a lot of processing. And then it was also a very engineering feat rather than just like this theoretical feat of getting neural networks, thinking how they work, but like getting them to work really fast on these NVIDIA GPUs, which are primarily meant for games. They are meant for rendering images and how you use them for matrix multiplications. This was an engineering feat. So and then like this accuracy went from 50% to 75%. So that's 2012 when AlexNet came. And then in 2014, ResNet came, which is like pushed this accuracy to 95%. And meanwhile, there is like this is all happening on images, and there are LSTMs and RNNs, which are like recurrent neural networks, because the text we speak, it's very sequential. Like whatever I'm speaking is followed by the next word to the next word to the next word. So modeling these kind of like modality is different from images, which is like very like it's all at once. You get the whole image at once. So yeah, there are like RNNs and LSTMs were going on. And then in 2015 or 16, this paper came. Attention is all you. Paper came about attention.
So before we get into the craziness, with attention is all you need. So you give me some insights around 2000s, which was the ImageNet data set. Then things. So NVIDIA happened. And then deep learning happened. So in this, all right. So sounds like not much happened from 2000 to 2010. But let's think about some sort of so these things, right? Natural language processing. So there's one thing which amazes me, Nishant. Like, as I was watching this demo from OpenAI, which was around subjective reasoning of a question. It was like a question and then some triangle and sin x and something was wrong. And the calculation that the person had done was wrong. And he asked, correct me, right? So ChatGPT was telling you like, hey, did you see that instead of hypotenuse, you have taken perpendicular, right? Now, in order to do this, if I just list down all the technology that is being used, first of all, you need like image processing. Image processing in itself is such a huge field, right? Then, now that you have processed the image, there's a written text which is since sin x is p by h or whatever, right? Like, I'm sorry if since it's x by x, so it's like, okay, now you read a word, a sentence. So now you are saying since and then. So then ChatGPT will detect कि तुम्हारा logic ही गलत था. So that was incorrect. So this is a natural language processing, in my opinion. It's like reading the English. It read the question first of all, so which is natural language processing. Now, I mean, and so that's second. The third would be like, and it's speaking. So now it's text to voice is another field. I remember it used to suck. And that's what you work upon, right? Tell us more about what you're doing in a second with the current company. But that's text to voice and all these things. I feel like this, like probably like 20 monstrous fields that is being used to create what AI is today. So we'll talk about what you do. But 2000 to 2010, I feel like some of this were happening, right?
Yeah. Of course. So yeah, like so how I think about it is, computers only read in 0 and 1s, right? And then initially we were just doing cryptography using it. Like computers actually came into existence for world wars, right? Maybe
which is again being challenged by Google's Willow, this modern supercomputer they just announced. Is another thing for another day.
But so like and then people were just trying to put these cryptography questions or challenges into computers, trying to get like answers to it, and then
trying to hack passwords.
Trying to hack passwords. Like that was OG password hacking. And then and then like people realized, actually, you know what, we can put images into zeros and ones. And they realized, we can have this RGB convention. We have 3 channels for each pixel, and then we put it there. Similarly, texts are like characters, and characters are just ordinals, which are represented from 0 to 128, and like just integers, right? And then so we like started representing our physical world into bits, zeros and ones. This was like we built this into computers, and of course then LCD screens came where we are now able to like see these zeros and ones back into some form which we see in the actual physical world. So this is all going to make sense. This is all very important for AI. because once you start representing zeros and ones, then you are like, actually, you know what? Like, even though we have like a lot of different combinations of these zeros and ones, but the world is limited. Like, there's only certain zeros and ones which are possible in the world. There's only certain zeros and ones which can like represent all the text in the world, and they're like not just random texts. Like, you can't just have like Z, Y, C, M, and some random characters and they will make a word. No, it's limited. And so
unless you're writing in Russian, ma'am.
Or you're reading your topology exam question paper.
Why did you have to bring topology, man? I scored single digit out of 100. Still passed. That was good. Yeah, so there's only certain number of tokens, which makes sense. Yeah.
So all this thing was happening, and we were definitely creating a lot of we are representing these things, and now we are able to see these things, and now we are like, if we can represent these zeros and ones, are we going to pause for a while?
No, we don't have to pause. I'll just check if it's recording. Oh, for some reason the screensaver started. Sorry guys, we are just noobs. We have no professional setup here. I'll just check again if the camera is recording. It is. Yes. So only a few words make sense, not all infinite combinations.
Yeah. So of course there are these patterns and all. All this foundational work of representing these things, and then like even SVMs.
I see no.
Yeah. Now do you see? Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, like coming back to these patterns, we have limited set of patterns, and we started building all these SVMs and these machine learning classifiers, and all this is important to get to where like we are right now, because even in machine learning, like people are talking about sharding, because like you have 80 billion parameter model and you can't fit it into a single RAM.
So now you need software engineering.
Yeah, you need software engineering, and so yeah, like all these foundational work get us where we are.
Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like this evolution happened really, really fast, like within 100 years, while human evolution happened millions of years before.
Yeah,
like we also gained some senses like vision, pattern recognition over the course of many years.
Yeah,
and the computer is doing it at a very fast speed, and we are enabling them.
Yep, definitely.
Fuck.
I think it's just compounding. I read this blog post. It's like, so it's like, what are the most like major events in human history, and what are the two most major events in human history? And it talks about, first one is the farming revolution, because after that we started accumulating some GDP, and post that the second thing which happened was industrial revolution, because at that time we started like we were no longer bound by human labor for creating things, and we can just use some natural resources for doing work for us, physical labor. But now we are bound by intelligence, by researchers, and if I think we are living at sort of that inflection point where people will look back and say, hey, what are the three most major events in human history? And this is like just very exciting.
So Yuval Noah Harari's definition of this is definitely farming revolution. He adds one more, which is the cognitive revolution, which is like when we started sensing things. So that was okay. It took a lot of time. So then another one he adds between the farming and industrial is the scientific revolution, which is the Newton era. People started reasoning about things and not taking things for granted. We'll assume we don't know anything until we can prove it, right? So which is helping a lot in doing it the scientific way. Then there is this internet era, right? Like this information age which we are living in right now. It started around 1990s with internet, computers becoming powerful, and I feel it's the same age. But now if people want to add another AI age, which is, I feel like AI was bound to be, man. I was like, I know we're all very, very surprised because we're living this right now. So yesterday, my brother is a software engineer for like 10 plus years, and then even before college. He has always been the guy who would look at your database and be like, oh, your bill is 2 lakh rupees a month. Let me cut it down to 50,000 rupees. And he did it for me at once when I was doing things in college.
Very
legal.
Yeah.
Very good. I was doing fun stuff in college. I was doing engineering. That's all I know.
Yeah. Guys, just take a pause. Someone in college was doing this much database costs. So
It's like 2 lakh rupees AWS bill. So and my queries were fucked up. That's it. So he was and he looked at it, and we spent like almost 2-3 hours, and we figured out what was the root cause. That's like improving performance is very hard. You have to really look at the right things to figure out, because the thing works. It's just that it's not performant. So now he was doing it yesterday. He basically gave his entire database model, his queries into ChatGPT, and he just asked, improve it. And then motherfucker was just going on and on about all the wrong ways of doing this, and you should do sub-select. I'm like, what is going on? This guy knows about databases. And when I say this guy, I mean ChatGPT. This guy told me what to pack when I was coming here today. I started packing at 8 a.m. and he generated a list for me, right? He knows about poetry. Like he creates rap songs. He gives me about how to pattern them. He writes notes for me. He reviews my product specs. Motherfucker knows everything. Like, how are we? Anyway, so it feels this way because we are living it now. But it was bound to be, man. I just recently watched Iron Man. Like, Jarvis has been around. We know that this sort of thing can happen, but we just didn't know it will happen in 5 years. That to me is just crazy. I think no one knew that it will happen in 2015. No one knew 2025 will look like this.
Yep. I mean, yeah. Even in 2012, people were not bullish on NVIDIA. Even in 2016-18, people were not bullish on NVIDIA. And suddenly after ChatGPT came, which, by the way, is just a wrapper over the LLM, which had been in existence for a long time, except that it was a bigger model and maybe it reached an inflection point. So there is some merit to it. But just prior to it, no one was bullish on NVIDIA. And right now, it's one of the most valuable companies in the
this
world.
guy, Jensen.
Yeah.
If you look at his LinkedIn, if anyone uses LinkedIn, 30 years doing one thing.
Yeah. That's also crazy. And then he was like, so he was always like, hey, see, Intel is just going to do things one by one, and I just want to do things parallelly. And damn,
I'm getting goosebumps. Because if someone does something for 10-15 years, you can't beat someone like that. If someone has that vision, persists through it, especially in computing, because it doesn't take longer than that. If you're solving cancer, you need to give 100 years. If you're building a new tech, you don't need to give 100 years. You'll find something amazing in 10-15 years, even earlier than that.
And if you see all the PMFs he had found, he started with gaming. He just started with rendering images, and then he found oh, actually games need this thing. Okay. And then he found, oh, Bitcoins need these things. Okay. And then, oh, LLMs need these things. So
yeah. I mean, it's good. So let's we'll talk about we'll stop being fanboys because we love to do that. We'll talk about you. So you joined KGP in 2014,
mm-hmm.
and you did GSOC. I think that was one. You did it in Simpai, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was when you got introduced to a lot of like really useful C++ in science. You got a taste of writing code for science. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right. And then you spammed a bunch of professors.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm butchering this. But anyway, so you were in Vegas. You were working with a professor in University of Nevada.
Yep.
What was the project about?
Okay, it was about like given trajectory of pedestrians for few time steps, can you predict where they are going next? So it's very similar to right now, like how these LLMs are working, where it's like given bunch of text, can you predict what's the next word or next token? So it's similar, but it also includes a little bit of social dynamics, because if two people are coming from like horizontally from left to right, and someone is coming just in front of them, so both of them will have to shift a little bit. And think of this in terms of like a railway terminal, where like there's a huge crowd always going through one way to another. So yeah, basically modeling that. So
Right. And then you went to Amazon.
yeah, then
for
I went to
applied
Amazon.
ML.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll like before touching upon all this, it's like
Now, you basically hear what I'm saying. I want you to give your introduction, man.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
that's basically what I want to do. Like, tell us your journey.
Yeah, so yeah, I was just a sleepy old child. Then one day I found like, hey, this guy has done GSOC in first year, and I woke up. Okay, that was an ode to Himanshu Mishra. So yeah, so I kind of started loving programming in my standard 11th. I went to this school which had computers. Very lucky to be there. And then kind of my teacher was really good in C++, and I learned programming in standard 11th and 12th. And then of course I came to college. I particularly wanted to come at like study kind of computer science or a related field from a good college, and my reasoning was clear, because all the other people who are going to come there are just going to come there for like studying computer science. But when I came to KGP, the reality was a little different, because people were coming there based on their ranks and not based on what they want to do. But yeah, I wanted to just learn more about computer science, because it's logical, it's a lot of puzzles, I always loved maths and so on. So yeah, and then first year you try to figure out, you see a lot of things. And then I started going to these robotics competitions in first year.
Oh yeah, you were in KRSSG.
Yeah, I was also in KRSG, but prior to it, in first year itself, we won a few competitions in KTJ that gave a boost. And then I joined KRSG, where we were teaching robots to play soccer, and it was very interesting. Like it was humanoid robots only on simulation, and then trying to teach them to play robotics, and went to represented India in Germany in this FIRA thing.
It's
and
like the
Robocop thing.
global robotics with soccer.
Yeah.
What the fuck is it called soccer?
Soccer.
Because some American did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. It's football.
So KRSSG, Kharagpur Robotics Soccer.
Kharagpur Robo Soccer
It's in
students
the
group.
name, man. That's why I never heard of it. No, I'm just kidding. Good.
Yeah, but then when you go to KRSG, like you tap into a lot of people who are there, who are like also quite crazy, doing robotics in their colleges when people are actually just exploring world. So yeah, that was kind of me exploring the world, like my type of exploration. And then yeah, like that introduced me to machine learning. I started doing a lot of internet reading. Kind of, that's how. I think Kharagpur, whatever it taught or not taught, it taught us how to learn. Like we learned how to learn. So
very useful.
Yeah, very useful. I think give a good engineer good access to Google, and they will just reach 95 percentile in almost anything. There's a blog, 95 percentile is not that hard. It's really, really good blog. We'll add a link.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. Okay, so that topic, right? Because I really relate with this idea that you have one life, and shutting your eye or your brain towards some sort of field is not okay. At least you should appreciate what it is. For example, you're also the guy who's roaming around in the campus with a camera in his hand. I just want to capture some moments that you get just when you walk or stroll. And you were like, I will hold the camera just in the position where your eyes are. There will be no sound, no music. It'll just be like you're walking and seeing it. So we have had friends who enjoy movie making and were very good at it. We have had friends who do a lot of creative stuff. And I think that's... So, okay, when I joined campus in Kharagpur, I was very judgmental about these people and these societies. I was like, what is going on? I'm here to make money, to get out of this poverty in house and whatever, right? I'm here to be successful and study or whatever. Why should I go and join literary society, right?
What changed your idea of success?
Yeah, I think if you ask me today what success is, it is... So I was watching this, the last lecture, right? And it says, it's to achieve your childhood dreams, right? And the freedom to do the things that you enjoy doing is success, right? Now, obviously, we cannot do... So, for example, we are able to do this and order from Blinkit, and this 2 tripod, like just click +1, do karte, why not, right? And I have this fancy setup and all. One day I was just doing this podcast, and I realized I don't want to use my work laptop for anything. Like Apple, MacBook, done. This is insane. I just don't realize. I just feel so bad that I don't realize that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it would have been... And it's not that easy for people our age. It's extremely rare. So we already are suffering from a lot of success. But I feel things which I'm not able to do right now is, let's say I want to build a product and test it out, right? It will require a lot of like getting investment and getting people to buy into the idea and getting users and all. But if I was, let's say, like a billionaire, I just have to say this.
Okay, I'll take a pause. So like from what you told, it kind of feels like you're saying that success is more like a journey rather than like what you achieve, because from your childhood's perspective, you're already like a successful person, but then you're like, I want to also do these things, and in sort of those ways, you just want to experience more life.
Yeah, but I also think I don't think that success can be achieved in a way that I can't say, hey, I've arrived. Yeah. That would be a fucked up life to live after. But the definition can't be changing that, okay, now I need a car, now I need a house, now I need X, now I need 2 houses, now I need... It can't be like that also, right? That you keep on changing. It has to be a constant thing which is evolving with you. So my definition of success is to do things that you like doing. The freedom to do that, right?
Yeah, there's this local train song in which there's this line ki ख्वाब मैं खुद के चुनूं है यही मकसद मेरा.
भाई.
Great lines, man.
भाई, काफी सही. And here's my take. You can have... So you don't need a lot of money to achieve what I just said. सपने ही देखो ना वैसे. Like someone's dream can be just live a peaceful life. That's okay, man. It's live a peaceful life, enjoy your family, take care of your kids. You don't need a lot of money to do that. You need some money to do that. But आप सपने वैसे देखोगे तो काट तो पड़ेगी ना. मतलब आप देखोगे भाई इतना कुछ करेंगे. So it's definitely like no, not saying any materialistic thing here. All I'm saying is कि कुछ भी करने का मन कर रहा है, वो चुल आती है अंदर में कि I mean things like science, for example. Why do we like science? It's just the study of nature and the nature we live in. Like through biology we study कि भाई how, for example, aging, right? Like I know I'll go into many sectors, but I feel like aging is one of the things which kills us. If we are able to figure out how to transport this consciousness from one body to another, we'll never die. Right? That's one idea. The other idea I was thinking, because Bangalore airport for some reason is 50 kilometers away from the city. I was just thinking how much time we spend physically moving from one place to another. Isn't it like the fundamental bottleneck in our modern experiences that you have to travel, and you get tired. After that, you can't even do stuff. Like one day goes into domestic travel, 3 days goes by in international travel. Even in the same city, people can't meet each other because it requires travel. Okay, here's a very crazy idea. Like you need to be really high to really appreciate this idea, because I actually wrote a 100-page novel on this idea when I was in school. That hey, at the end of the day, everything.
Man, pause. Appreciate this thing that a schoolboy had written a 100-page novel in school. yeah, you continue.
I'm not able to find those copies. I have a lot of science fiction, fantasy stuff. So one idea was that everything is a particle, everything is a wave. People have taught us. This is what quantum physics is like. Now we don't have much control over what takes what shape and form, but the voice, the sound, the internet, the information, they are in the form of wave. That's how they reach immediately, right? If our body can become in the form as crazy, like I'm not saying science here, it is science fiction, right? Not 100 years, thousands of years of later, if our body can become in the form of wave, we can transport very, very fast from one place to another and then reunite. But that's this particular physical body, this biology is the limiting factor, that if you tear things, you can't join them, organs won't function like that. So the best thing would be the consciousness moves from one body to another, right? Dahin pe we will invite Ranveer Alabadia and he'll talk about kaise atmaएं ek the fuck. But
Okay. Yeah.
do you think like this has like 0.1% possibility that we'll be able to shift bodies? Okay, so not we, but what if we build a second brain, and not for ourselves? Let's say we die for ourselves, but no one around us has to know this. If you think about it, people around you will still interact with your second brain, which will live forever.
Yeah, I think it's
Your child will have you.
Yeah. I mean, so see, right now what I think is like books. In certain ways, it's like when you're reading autobiography of a person, you are actually kind of like getting to know a little bit of that person. It's not interactive. You can't talk to it, but maybe in future you can just talk to that personality. I don't know like how good it will be, but like if it's like real.
Screw good and bad, we're beyond that now.
Okay, so
There's no like there's a separate side of discussion where how ethical everything is.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I'm putting myself out there on this podcast just so that in future some AI will be trained on this content, and when people want to talk to Nishant, they will have some sort of reference like, hey, this guy actually thought like this. And based on it, you can kind of interact with me. Because, of course, I also think in a very limited manner. And, of course, my words maybe represent a lot of it. And whatever is out there can be kind of used to model me. And that will become interactive. And then someone can, in the future, maybe talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, so I remember this senior when I was in second year of college. His name is Arknath Pathak.
Oh, yes. Great photos also.
Yeah, and I think he's still in Google. He's been in Google forever. So he built this AI assistant, not AI assistant, but he built this assistant. So on his page, you could go and you could just talk to assistant like, hey, is Arknath still around? And he would tell you, no, he's playing sports and he'll be back at this time. So you can leave messages. It was like perfect, good assistant, no AI. It was a basic NLP. He was like storing some tokens, like if someone asks me about X, say Y, right? And he built it all from scratch with a lot of code. Like he should have pursued that. But I felt there were not enough LLMs and things around. But I think it's just it's bound to happen. Like no one's gonna stop it. It's
and
an
also
amazing
becomes
idea.
a Black Mirror episode.
It is that episode.
Yeah,
I remember one episode where you could get your partner downloaded into a body, and
Crazy.
like obviously the body doesn't breathe, doesn't eat. So I'm not saying it. You'll have a romantic partner. Like obviously you're not going to, This is why the oldest scientist, the first scientist, was always Gautam Buddha,
Mm-hmm.
who did
Very
research
interesting.
on his body. That's Yuval Noah Harari's words.
Uh-huh.
Did research, figured out there's some suffering you cannot avoid, loss of a loved one.
Oh, I remember Siddhartha, that book by MNIST. Yeah.
So you cannot avoid loss of a loved one suffering. So that's not a good goal. But Harari also says कि every scientist is कोई बोल नहीं रहा, but सबको immortality achieve करना है. So what are we doing with all these medicines and vaccines? क्या कर रहे हैं कि भाई कम बच्चे मरे, right? We're trying to push this age limit जितना ज़्यादा हो सके. And then we have discovered this big wall called cancer because लोग इतना time जी रहे हैं, which we have no answer for, and it's crazy. Like, yeah.
Of course, it's like if
So welcome to the best AI podcast of India.
Hi.
But no, Nishant. So tell us more about what you're doing right now. You can talk about work. You can talk about anything you're learning. You can talk about anything you're doing.
Sure, yeah. So right now I work at Play. It's Play.ai. We are building text-to-speech, kind of now speech-to-speech LLM models. And it involves a lot of model training. We train models of almost all scales, I think. What am I doing apart from it? I was playing golf today. I was playing golf. I don't know, man. You're already smiling.
I read that message. I'm at golf today, and I was like, okay, some business deal is closing. Like, oh, have we grown up that much?
I'll keep people guessing. But yeah. So and then apart from it, I try to play the keyboard, and playing the keyboard is like learning music theory and what are scales, and then I was even trying to like now harmonize my voice with the synthesizer. So using my voice for melody. It's not very melodious, but yeah. There.
नहीं भाई. Yeah.
And then so I recently had an ACL injury. That's why I was grounded to my home. So I learned a lot of music theory and also a little bit of guitar and like pentatonics and simple soloing on guitar. What else?
I was listening to Steven Wilson the other day, and you can say I was not maybe at that moment I was not feeling okay. Like a lot of things were going on. And I just listened to Anesthetize live, 18 minutes. And I just closed my room. And I was just shouting. And so here's another thing. Singing is another form of meditation.
Yeah.
Right? And I was in that moment, right? And at the end of it, I put a WhatsApp status that sometimes Steven Wilson is all you need. Or one song of Steven Wilson is all you need. It will take you into... So Tool is another band which does that for me from time to time. That's why I don't listen to it occasionally. Like, ऐसा नहीं है कि Tool आ गया तो मैं सुन लूँगा. नहीं. Am I ready for it? Like, can you listen to Tool's reflection at this moment? Right? I remember when I was in US, third year internship, I used to keep a notebook of things I'm learning. And then I had written this. I was stupid back then. Like, one of the things I had written was, Americans hate water. They would do whatever it takes to not drink water. They would drink sparkling water and juice and boba tea and phalna dhimkana. But water, nope. For some reason, plain water is just an alternative. And I don't think that should be true. Water is irreplaceable. You should not replace it with Diet Coke. Not replace it with anything else. Like, those are always the secondary thing. Anyway, so that was a big observation I had. The other observation was people love shoes. Like, everyone was wearing shoes. There was no other form of footwear around. And maybe it's a cold country and that's okay. But the thing that I was talking about, which I forgot. What was I saying?
You were talking about Tool. And
music.
Then, yeah.
So people love listening to music in the background. No one was actively listening to music.
भाई साहब, मुझे तो लगता है लाइफ में इस तरह रैंडमली बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक कभी कभी होना चाहिए.
हाँ.
और कभी कभी तुमको एकदम पूरा इमर्स्ड होना चाहिए म्यूजिक में.
हाँ, मतलब बैकग्राउंड म्यूजिक होना चाहिए. उसका वैल्यू बहुत है. All I'm saying is कि people resist music which requires attention. They're like, like, people resist movies that require attention, right? Like, a lot of people wouldn't watch movies which would require focus and dedication. But the thing is ki they have a higher return of investment. Like, you can listen to a Dua Lipa song and I will still listen to it, but it's not something that changes my life. But if you play Linkin Park, in the end, it has a completely different meaning on so many people's lives. So there was something different about that music, which is everlasting. Right? So anyway, that was one of the observations I had.
Okay.
आप सो रहे क्या?
वो थोड़ा
नहीं, हम लोग close कर लेते हैं, end कर लेते हैं यहाँ पे.
Cool.
ठीक है.
By the way, interesting stuff, guys. I am also an AI product manager now.
Oh, hi.
Okay. Hi.
I'm a product manager. He's a AI engineer.
So
We'll chat.
We'll chat sometime.
Yeah,
Thank you.
cool.
Good night.
cool guys.
We're disturbing
See you.
neighbors. But anyway, there was just a trial. We'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it again.
Yeah. Right now we're just hallucinating.
We're just hallucinating. Fuck. Yeah, engineers. How's your week been so far? Since we last talked on this grass.
Oh, week has been pretty interesting. There was some work, a lot of exercises, and then a lot of sports.
Golf?
Oh yeah, golf also. Golf though, the same day when we met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So two things I want to cover. First is, let's go back in time, right? Imagine you are Nishant Nikhil, but you are a second year student in IIT KGP, and the time is 2025, and it's the spring semester, and it's pretty cold there, and it's a lovely season. You have a laptop, you have internet, you have friends around, and all the things that's happening right now is happening, but you are in your second year. So you don't know what's actually happening. What advice you would give to your second year self right now, and mostly around what to learn, how to figure things out, so that, you know, like the life that you have right now is maybe even better for him.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. Firstly, like I'll just say ki have skip connections. By skip connections, I mean have access to people who are like 5 years older to you, 10 years older to you. It just gives you a different perspective on life, because when you're second year and you're like, third year is a senior, and what they're doing is they're almost at the same stage of life as yours, and their advice might be a little short term, but someone who is just like 10 years older to you have like way more perspective on life. So that's there. And then of course be curious, go and meet a lot of people. I think when people think about college, they're like, I'm just going to go study there and this thing. But actually, no. You have to understand that being in college just gives you access to a lot of people you can just go and tap into. Like, go talk to someone who is doing like something very different. Go do photography. Go do be in TLS. Technology Literary Society, and yeah, just do a lot of these things. But
and what if the Nishant Nikhil in second year is thinking, how will all of this help me in getting a job? What would you say to that thought process which goes around interviews and landing first job? Why should I write poetry when all that matters to my interviewer is traversing an array?
I think one big thing is changing the perspective, as in like job is not your life, it's part of your life. So you should do things which can enrich your life, like the experiences you are having, and seldomly it's going to come from just a single thing. So you should just dabble around with a lot of things. And people just don't understand, like when you are stuck in, suppose, a local thing, local minima, and you're like, I just need to be very prepared for the job and be very prepared for internships and these things. Maybe you're doing something very differently early in your career, and it will join back when you're older. And yeah, also like one huge change in perspective is 200 years ago, people didn't had like a huge lifespan. Now we have like a very big lifespan now.
Yeah.
So early people used to live till like 40, 45, 50, but then like penicillin came, a lot of drugs came, and you can like now live more. So there's now more scope for hobbies, more scope for things which you can do. So that's there. Of course, like job is important. Actually, like doing, you have to figure out, I think that's the part of college, as in like what kind of job you want to do. And it's never going to happen like, hey, it's rarely going to happen that, hey, you just did your first job and you're like, yeah, this is it. It's rare. So what you should be doing in college is just like dabble with multiple things. Build a crypto blockchain, build a website UI for it,
and ask for username password.
Yeah.
I mean, so the context here is we were doing a hackathon. It was it IBM? I think it was IBM.
IBM hackathon.
And they had given a task to create a blockchain, and I had no idea how to create a blockchain. So this guy did all the hard work, and I was like, I'll give you the UI. And in the UI, we asked for username password. And so we were prepared for the demo, and we just looked at the previous demo, or like 2 demos before ours. And the question the reviewers were asking, how is the username password if it's a blockchain? Because things cannot be centralized. We're like, oh shit, we forgot the basic of the blockchain. So we kind of changed everything, and we got a second position.
Yeah.
The hackathon. We have done a lot of hackathons together.
Yeah.
I remember there was this in PyCon Delhi. We submitted a project. I have this very interesting picture you have of me downloading Android Studio the night before we have to present our application, and hackathons are really just hack and build and don't care about the perfection. And I think that aspect of building, right? I feel it's very important to preserve, especially with, let's say, AI, right? I feel there's two types of people who are taking this, both smart people. One kind of people they are reading a lot, they are watching a lot of videos, they are, just absorbing information, but no action. They're not doing anything. The other kind is like, you are the prime figure in my mind, is I'll do both. I'll also read, but also create stuff. I would not just sit and read for hours and hours and not actually try to build something. I've been that for web development and application development. I used to be like, why am I really reading all of these things? I should be building something. And it's not just for writing code, right? Like, imagine you're learning guitar. Would you just read all the time, like all the chords, or would you actually play actual song? So I feel it's very important to have that hacker mindset whenever you're approaching anything new. Otherwise, it's so different, man, because the typical education system we have is all about read, exam, read, exam. Not enough application of what we are reading.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, there is, I think, this consumer versus producer mindset. So I think it's the same thing. The brave new world we are living in. There's a lot of ways for you to consume things, and people want you to consume things because that's how maybe the world has come to, economy wise. But but you need to also make sure that you produce things, and it can be a very small thing. It's just a habit kind of thing where you are more interested in, like, hey, I want to do this thing, rather than like, hey, I want to just consume this thing. And of course this comes with in my experience, it has rewarded me a lot. As in, like, when you consume things, definitely you want to read about the things you do. But at the same time, I've learned more about training models, building websites, and which like how important is something by actually doing it. Like, you train a model and they're like, hey, it's not training. And then you're like, they were talking about loss, like, is the loss going down? Yes, the loss is going down, but it's not going down so much. And then you're like, is there anything I can track? Oh, there's gradient norm. Oh, how does it actually relate? Maybe, now I should little bit read about it. So you're actually doing it.
Yeah.
And then you got stuck.
Yeah.
And then you read something about it, like, hey, maybe this is the way. And then you again do it. So the same goes for, like, guitar chords, right?
Yeah. I remember asking this question to my brother. I was in my first year and I was learning Python. And after a month, I was a bit disappointed. I was not able to figure out how to actually create a class in Python, and a bit disappointed. So I asked my brother, how much time does it take to learn Python? And his response is still stuck in my mind. He said, I'm still learning. That's how we need to look at it. You can never learn a thing up to, like, completion. And you have to be okay with this mindset that I will always be learning, but doesn't mean that I cannot use it. And it's exactly opposite of how our education system works. It's about, there's a chapter, you learn it from start to finish, and now you solve questions. It's not like an infinite scope thing. It's presented to us as if there will always be a book, there will always be 10 pages, and you can read it and you will understand it. I feel like that's just...
Yeah, I remember one time, like, talking with you, and it was like, hey, those people who are getting good numbers in exams, they have, like, high CGPA. Like, what is it? How do you think about it? And I was like, it's also a time management problem. Like, you can of course give more time to your academics, and you can have, like, good marks. I pretty much think, like, almost anyone can have good marks given, like, enough time they devote to it. But then, like, do you really want to? Like, is this actually enriching your life? Is it like, you are studying every day for academics, for getting good marks, and you will get good marks. But then can you do something different and that enriches your life in way more different way?
Yeah.
There's something called luck surface area, and people are like, you can increase the chances of meeting more people, meeting more interesting people, doing interesting things, just enriching your life by doing good things, doing interesting things, and then also talking about it. So there can be people who are like doing very good things and not talking about it. There's less chance that they will meet interesting people. And on the other avenue, there is like someone who's like talking a lot, but then not actually doing good things. People have a bullshit filter and they will just filter them out. And then you should just be like, hey, I do these things and try to do interesting things. And it can definitely depend on like which part of life you're at, and then just try to do something and then talk about it, and then just increases your luck surface area, and this is how you meet.
Right.
I think this is how we met.
Right. So is that so if I were to summarize what you would tell your second year self is, yes, job is part of your life, but that's not everything. You should not over optimize for job. I feel like one challenge that I saw in college was everyone was trying to maximize their chances of finding a job. And I think and I used to question it. So what do I mean by it? You can maximize your chances of landing a job by picking the job profile that is of higher number, which is a software development, data science role. And in those interviews, the maximum questions are around problem solving, lead code, and such. So people used to study just that. Now, my point is, if you don't do it, then you still have chances of finding a job. It's just not the maximum, but it comes with some rewards. Now, the reward is you might be doing things which are more meaningful to you and more interesting to you. So, for example, I could have sat in college placements, right? Like we could have done that, and that would have maximized our chances of finding a job. But we didn't do it, so we reduced the chances, but the places where we could have gone gave us more meaningful time. And I feel like that's something people don't consciously do.
Yeah. Coming on this point, I think it's very like what we were talking a little while ago. You should have a great friend circle. It kind of boosts your confidence because you're like, hey, everyone is doing this and I want to do this. And you need to have conviction to get this plan work out, because when you think about yourself, like you just have a couple of chances and you need to be very articulate, very much into that particular chance. And yeah, so talking about like a second-year-old self, I'll say like surround yourself with people who are like positively contributing to your life.
Yeah. And I understand it's very hard for some people to actually go out of their way and approach people, get into those circles, but that's one of the most rewarding things you can do to yourself. And I wrote about it. This blog post I wrote, The Trap of I'm Not an Extrovert. It doesn't mean you have to be an extrovert to do that. You can find introverted people and they will let you in the zone if they detect that you're also of similar type. These two words are very harmful, I feel, especially in college, because that's an excuse to not do things that will benefit you.
Yeah, man, just go and read Courage to be Disliked. You'll be like...
but that doesn't mean aim to be disliked by your friends.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Don't judge a book by its cover. I of course know, like, you have read it. And it just talks about, like, hey, don't be giving excuses. You have your willpower and it can change it. And yeah.
Yeah. And it also talks about things that are not in your hand don't bang your head about things that. So I was talking to someone yesterday, and he was like, "Oh, I don't have a job," and I look around people who are less talented than me, and they have a job, and I don't feel good about it. I'm like, yes, it's not this thing. You will always find something that's not in your hands, and you will. It's a trait that you have, that you find things to be unhappy with, and you observe these things. So another thing he was unhappy with was, I could have landed that job earlier. I rejected it, and now I feel bad about it. It's just a trait. You will always find these things which will make you unhappy. That's so yeah. This is not in your hands. Like the mood the interviewer will have that day, you don't control it. So let it be, man. Let's just let it come to you, and you do what you can do, right? Why worry about things you don't have in your control? I think so. Here's the thing, man. I feel so it doesn't have to be spirituality. Like it can also be social science, like psychology, but you need some sort of way to find peace early on. You need some sort of rules of thumb in your life to go by. I will always find people who have better lifestyle, more money, more opportunities. No matter where you are, you will always find them. So never look at them and feel bad about yourself. Just look at where you are from the past and feel good about it. And I feel a lot of people do, and I feel especially with Bangalore, and I don't live in Bangalore, I feel this is a typical Bangalore culture. Is always this the most of the conversations at night when friends come from work, it's not about, hey, how good my work is, or how good maybe the product that we are building. It's not that. It's all about mostly my job sucks. Mostly, like I'm trying to get promoted, but it's not happening. I'm trying to aim for 20% raise. Let's see, how can I do it? I feel these are very shallow conversations, because you can keep having it forever in your life. You will never be satisfied if that's your parameter, that's your metric. Obviously, you need to get to a minimum to satisfy your अंदर के needs and desires, but at some point you have to realize कि it's a never-ending. I mean, how can I say this? So been working for 5-6 years, right? I think we have, like, our comp is probably 10x than what we were offered when we were out of college. 10x in 5 years is not a typical path people follow. But even now we have needs that we feel, अरे यार ये तो थोड़ा ज़्यादा महंगा है, ये नहीं हो पा रहा. Those thoughts come to our mind, but it's a trap to realize कि it will always come.
So taking a pause again, sorry, but what do you think? Like, what do you, as Himanshu Mishra, suppose you are again second year in 2025, what do you suggest to people to do? College grad, second year. Yeah, like if I go back when I was in my second year, right? First, I would say that you're doing the right things. You are not valuing academics as highly as everyone else around you is doing. You don't get bothered too much by your CGPA, because I knew I would never be a researcher, and I'm not going to apply to colleges for higher education, which is when it matters a lot. So you're always going to be building things. So you're doing the right thing, that you're not over prioritizing. You're not spending too much time on like the actual content of your coursework, which is outdated, and it's not going to help you tremendously. A lot of things were very important, but that's just 10%. 90% of the things were just not very important.
Yeah. What's the role of internet in your life? We'll take a pause.
We'll have to edit it.
इसमें देख ले रिकॉर्ड होता है ना रिकॉर्ड ऑन है
रिकॉर्डिंग इज ऑन 21 मिनट्स हो चुका है एंड इसमें भी recording is on. Sounds good. This is also on. Okay. दोबारा तुमसे पूछना पड़ेगा वो क्वेश्चन. What's the role of internet?
Yeah. So, what's the role of internet in your life?
In my second year or currently?
Let's first talk about second year.
Oh, so yeah, I mean, I feel like open source is the thing. Now I'm finding out about what's happening out there, what software people are using. So let's say I'm in my second year, I just cleared JEE and all. I know people do science, solving equations and all. So now I'm seeing, ye to professors are actually using Python to do science stuff. It's helping them out, process data, solve equations. It's amazing. Like, yeah, computers should be helping us do mundane things. So my internet told me about these projects that exist out there. It helps me connect to those people. But to be honest, when I was in my second year, the role of internet is I get to learn about Christopher Nolan. I get to hear amazing music that would have been otherwise inaccessible at that time. It's everything. It's just amplifying my life in my second year.
And how about you use because I kind of feel this. So how about you use internet for learning things?
I was not the best way I've used internet to learn is put my stuff out there for others to use and give me feedback. So I remember I used to create small projects, like I created a Minesweeper application because I wanted to learn Java and Qt programming to create desktop applications. And I put it on a subreddit that, hey, I created this in 2 days, give me feedback. And now I had like 10 people coming and reviewing my code, telling me that, hey, you have not handled this edge case and your code looks good and this and that. It's very hard to get it. And it's Reddit. It's openly, people are doing it for you. They're trying out the software. They're giving you feedback. I've created many things. I used to watch Friends a lot. And the problem with Friends is you watch it 200 episodes and I still watch it. But I wanted to watch random episodes and not have to think about it, because you always like, season 2 mein ye hota hai, season 8 mein ye hota hai. I wanted to be presented with an episode. It has to be truly random. It shouldn't be recent and things. So I created this application called Muriel because in Friends, Chandler Bing's middle name is Muriel. And I just loaded my torrent downloaded Friends playlist in there. It's all physical files. We used to pirate a lot of stuff. And then I should just hit a button. And I know my roommate in my second year of college, he came to me one day, hey, Muriel is broken. I'm like, oh, are you still using it? He's like, yeah, I was always using it. And then I fixed it. So I feel, and especially now that we are building products and companies, right? Don't go into your cave and spend 12 months just building something. The feedback that you will receive from your first user is precious. You will spend money to get it, and and I think that should be the ultimate goal, is that you get this feedback. Yeah, but I mean, otherwise there'll be a lot of disconnect on what you're building.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for people who are like, suppose just out of college and they are doing their jobs, and what do you suggest them? Like, how do you navigate their career, or kind of projects they should build?
So like, I assume you mean some roles like engineering.
Yeah, so it can be like, suppose someone just graduated out of college and they are doing simple software engineering, be it front end or back end, and they are like, it's their first job, it's first time they are building products which is going to be used by thousands of people or like millions of people. Yeah. And so what kind of stuff you think they should work on?
Yeah.
Or what kind of blogs you think they should write? Or what kind of side projects you think they can be working on, which might enrich their life?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. I feel like the answer is, we'll keep on discovering many answers. It's a big, heavy, loaded topic. So I'll just touch upon a few aspects at top of my mind, and I'll love to hear from you as well. So let's say the first job that you have. First of all, put your ego aside and turn on learning mode. You need to be absolutely selfish and absorb as much as you can from people around you. They will not notice, but you will just change yourself. So what do I mean by that is involve yourself in complex projects. But it's very gradual. So your first 6 months should be, what can I do? Do it to a completion. Complete the loop. You get the task. You first understand why this is happening. Then you understand how will I do it. And then you see it in action. See what impact did it make. So that first loop closure is very important. Don't leave things hanging. Like, I'm still working on this, still working on this. And that's why you should first pick a task that you can finish in a week. Then pick a task you can finish in 2 weeks, then 4 weeks. So essay, you should spend your first 6 months very task oriented, because that's your learning mode. You're understanding how the company is, how the tech stack is and everything. And you're building friendships. You're going to a mentor and asking good questions to them. The next 6 months should always be, what more can I do? Like, try to haath pair maro thoda idhar udhar. Try to get projects, but always surround yourself with business, like very important. So listen to your leaders. What are they talking about? What is something big that's happening in the company? I feel like, in my company, a lot of engineers skip all hands. It happens every 2 weeks. Our CEO comes and talks about what he's hearing from companies, customers, and people miss it. And then they say, hey, I'm not getting promoted. Brother, you just don't know what is important to the company, and you never aligned towards yourself. You were doing something in your cave. Why you should be promoted over someone else who was always involved, who was brainstorming with everyone around you? So it's very important that you're working on the things that the business prioritizes, right? I feel like that's something a lot of engineers make a mistake. They think, hey, they're there to write code in Golang or C++ or something, right? And they're like, what do you do in this company? Oh, I write code in JavaScript.
No, become a problem solver.
Bro, JavaScript is a tool.
Yeah, and you should just be like looking at it like that, hey, this company works, it does this thing. And like everyone does like work, right? But then you have to think about like, what can I do which maximizes the impact? And if you're in a cave, it's just hard to know like whether you are.
Yeah, and it's very easy to be in a cave. Like, if you don't want to be disturbed, you will not be disturbed, because you're inviting ambiguity in your life when you are surrounding yourself with business critical applications, because they will not be well defined. And you need to be okay being ambiguous. Yes, things are not clear. You should be okay managing multiple things at a time. Another pet peeve of mine, whenever an engineer comes to me and says, hey, I'm working on this one particular thing, one particular feature. Oh. Someone else's phone is ringing. Yeah. So, cut.
अबे श्रीनिवास, ज़्यादा गेटवा बंद कर लेना.
Yeah, so where were we?
Yeah, it's okay. It's good, man. Yeah, so to summarize, the first point that I was saying was ki, surround yourself, like, first be focused, task oriented, learn very quickly, but then work on important things, right? I think it's very important. Don't just play with tools and tech. Don't just be a typical engineer, is all I'm saying. There are places where that's rewarded, but most places you will be rewarded based on how you help the business. It's very natural. Like, you want to get rich, the CEO wants to get rich, help each other.
Yeah. And also like it comes with this thing where suppose you are of course you are an engineer, and then you get to work on something, and of course it's time bounded, that you have to deliver this thing in a month, and then you realize that, hey, maybe few things can't be delivered in a month. And so which few things are you prioritizing on? Is
Estimation.
Yeah.
Planning and estimation
Yeah.
is ultimately another
Yeah.
thing.
So if you know about the business, if you know about the customers, how they are going to use it, what is the issue this particular feature or whatever you're building is going to solve, then you can just prioritize it in a better manner. And then when you are like with all the people who are working on this project, you're like, hey, see, we have this much time and we can work on these particular ABC things, and we are deprioritizing this D thing because we don't have time, and these first three things are more critical than the D part. And so thinking in this way is a better way to think than like, hey, I want to just do A, B, and D rather than C, because C is a little tough and it's going to just take more time. So in the second approach, you are talking from an engineering perspective, but you need to think like, hey, you're working in a company and the business
You're building stuff. Your goal is to build, get feedback. I feel like at the end of the day, it comes down to value generation. If you're generating value for people around you, you will be rewarded. Simple as that. If you are not generating value for people around you, you will not be rewarded. Simple as that. And value could come from anything. I think that's the mindset when I was at Spotify, I joined as an engineer, but very quickly I realized it's an open source project. Open source projects require a lot of community building, requires a bit of marketing, requires engagement, requires an X factor than just writing code. And I just started doing all of it. I started hosting backstage community sessions every month, inviting contributors. What was your experience contributing to this project? What could we have done better? I created a video to excite everyone around me. This project is just killing it. And that video was played in company all hands. Right? I was 3 months in the company. I was not told to do this. But I realized this is going to provide value, more value than anything else. Obviously, there's a primary thing that you will have, but always have this secondary value generation. You can provide value by going to a team meeting and things are sad, things are bad. Just crack a joke. Just make fun of your own self and see how everyone around you will start liking you and they would want to work with you. These are, I don't know, man. I feel like people think it's very natural for someone to do it and all. You should learn how to do this.
Yeah, I remember. I joined, like I worked at a few companies, and when I joined that company, there was no onboarding doc. So it was very ad hoc. It's still a startup. So of course there is no onboarding doc. And then you're talking with people like, hey, how do I get access to this? And how do I work on it? Just getting access and like knowing about what all systems are there. So it's very important for you to know that. And then of course you can do it in a very secluded manner that you now know about it. But then think about it, like actually the business is going to have a lot more value when you actually create the onboarding doc. There was no onboarding doc. You are getting onboarded, but you just create the onboarding doc so the next person who comes won't have to feel
the change you want to see.
Yeah. And like the onboarding doc kind of like we created, it started from almost that time, and now everyone uses it. And like whenever someone joins, I make sure like if there is anything left in there, if there is something new which has come up, which I'm like they're asking, I make sure that hey, like it should be added there. And this is how like it gets created. It's not a project which is going to give like a lot of value in terms of code or my technical capabilities, but it just provides way more value.
Yeah. So here's a news I have for people who are individual contributors who think there is a company and they work in that company.
Okay, pause.
Hey. No, it's good. We have multiple cuts. We can continue. Yeah.
So I can go back.
No, you can be anywhere you want to.
Can I sit there?
Just sit there. That's okay. But if you will speak, so it will not catch it. So
Can I sit there?
no, you can sit here. You can listen and all. It's all good. Yeah. But we will not be able to have a conversation because then we'll need third mic. for you to
that's
be
fine.
part. हाँ चलो ठीक है. Sounds good. Thanks for. It's good. It smells good. That's all I
Yeah.
will say. So thanks for that. Okay, let's continue. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, you were talking about individual contributors.
Yeah. So here's the news. Now that I can see how leaders of a company with 500,000 people think, the news is stop ranting as an individual contributor. Stop saying, hey, the system sucks, the team sucks, there should be this doc, there should be this process in design, there should be that process in engineering, product ko aisa karna chahiye, waisa karna chahiye. Go ahead, start doing it and see who stops you. So a lot of the times I've realized, so here's something that my SVP says to me. He says ki you exist to solve a mess. You're saying there's a mess. There was a mess already, and that's why we created this role for you to figure out how to untangle it. Why are you complaining about it? That's part of your job, right? And as higher you go, your job will have this requirement to define what your job is. Right? No one will come and hand over tasks to you, right? Otherwise, the chances of you getting replaced in 5 years is very high, and I've been very paranoid about this. How easy it is to replace you. Build some unfair advantages with the company. And see, the company will reward you for doing it.
Yeah.
For taking on those problems. I'm so upset with, and maybe I'm not seeing the full picture, but I feel a lot of the times people complain about things that they can actually go ahead and fix. Even in colleges, I remember we used to complain about laundry machine नहीं चलता and water cooler आवाज करता है and mess में ये खाना नहीं. If you don't like the mess food in college, you knew there was a mess secretary you could go and say कि bro next month का ये हटा दे and just collect 10 names people or just call for a meeting. You had that control. You go ahead, be part of the system and fix it if you want to fix it. So news to all the ranters. Looks like all you want to do is just rant and not actually fix the problem. If you want the problem to be fixed, there is always a path for 90% of the things.
Okay. So zooming into your career a little bit. So you were a backend engineer, or you were just an engineer at Mercari and then
Yeah.
Spotify, and then now you are doing a project management job. So how did you as an individual switched from engineering to product management? What all changes have you seen happen with your work life? And B, what do you suggest people who want to do the same thing?
Right, that's a very good question. Because I do get asked these questions a lot. How did you decide to switch? And I want to be a PM. What's the path? So first of all, I don't think it was my decision ever. I was one of those guys who was living in the moment, doing things that I enjoy doing. So even in open source, if you see, it was not just about writing code. It was also about making friends, ensuring that the project gets used, adopted, it has good documentation, good videos, you're talking about the project. I remember I went to SciPy conference at the end of my second year. I was in Austin, Texas, in front of all the professors and PhDs who know a lot more about black holes, but I'm now teaching them that there's this project which does X-ray astronomy using time series, and it will help you in your black hole research. So I always had that key. I want to do more than writing code. But writing code was the primary thing. My brother, my father, everyone is a software engineer. I've had my hands on a computer ever since. I remember as far as I go in my childhood, there was always a computer. And I was playing games for sure. I was not writing code back then. So I always wanted to be around code and computers, but that was never the final thing. It was also about people. That's why I was doing all these society things in college, open source society, let's teach others and all of that, right? So when I was an engineer, first company, second company, I think at the 3-year mark, I realized that when I do all these extra things, people like it. and people remember me for the extra things I do. They don't actually remember me for the code that I write, because that I feel a lot of people could have written it. But the extra thing I like, it's so what Naval Ravikant says, right? If you go into a zoo and you see an elephant, it's okay, and you see a unicycle, it's okay. But if you see an elephant riding that unicycle, it's amazing. It's like, what have you seen? So similarly, when you see an engineer and you see like he's on YouTube and he shows up in your TV one night you're having dinner, you're like, oh, this guy is interesting. And that's how people started remembering me, that there's a little bit extra that I do. It's like, what am I doing then? Like, why am I not pursuing that? So I wrote an email to my GM one day that, hey, I enjoy hosting community sessions. I enjoy building a community. I enjoy understanding how are people coming in. What is the funnel look like? Someone knows about Backstage. Great. How do they use it? Second thing, hey, I actually want to contribute to it. What's the first thing you find out? There's a whole sales funnel if you think about it. Right? I actually drew all of those funnels. I said, ये रहा, इतना conversion होता है, इतने लोग GitHub से आते हैं, website receives 10 million page hits in a year, Discord में there's 20,000 people, GitHub में there's 200 issues and PRs a week. I was using Python, I was using GitHub APIs, I was computing everything, I was creating both a strategy doc and actual numbers, and I said, ki, let's improve this. These are the bottlenecks. Ki, getting started is very hard. Finding the first issue to contribute is very hard. So let's ask all of our team members to create low-hanging fruits. And I started doing all of that. No one asked me to do it, and I enjoy doing this. So I said, ki, I want to do this, part-time. Can I be a 50% engineer? Can I be a 50% this extra thing? I don't have a name for it. And he was an amazing person. He said, Himanshu, write your own job description, choose your own title, do it full-time. But do it full-time. Don't just do this and that, because then the incentives are not aligned. Just don't write code as your primary thing, and try it for 6 months and a year, see what happens. So I said, okay, developer advocate sounds like a role I should pick. And I wrote my own job description. It's amazing, man. Like doing that 3 years out of college, it means that you are providing a lot of value, and they are giving you that advantage. So I did it, and then Harness reached out, and the plan was to build a product, develop a portal, and based on Backstage. And I was someone who was out there. If you still search for how to create a Backstage plugin, my video shows up, and I still get, hey, sir, this thing is not working. Sir, look at my code. It's very easy to discover me via Backstage. It's like, okay, the code that I've written, I've created one of the core plugins in Backstage. No one knows it, but people know that I've created a video on top of it. So want to do a product management, want to have a product manager who's the founding PM and figures out what this product will be, what the business strategy will be, everything. And looks like you're the one. So I never really said I want to be a PM, and I still feel like I'm doing all of those things. But it's all the breadth things that I've done that matters, that you are able to break the boundaries, cross disciplines, combine them, and come up with like unique things.
Okay, so I'll kind of summarize what. So you were like insanely obsessed about Backstage, like of course there is the product, like the tech part, as in like how to build it, but then how do people use it? Why aren't people using it? And what are their pain points? And this kind of led you to get the metrics, like actually where people are not using it. And then you dug down on like how to solve this. So a lot of on the user acquisition part, and like that came very naturally.
Yeah.
You were not thinking about actually user acquisition, but then
these terms I had not even heard these terms.
Yeah.
Sales funnel.
Yeah, sales funnel. Yeah. But then you actually reached to it, and then you're like, oh, there is also this marketing part, which you kind of didn't like deliberately were doing, but then you were creating like videos which people are watching, and then just creates an environment for them to know a little more about like, hey, what Backstage is, what is like an IDP. So that way you were kind of doing marketing. You were kind of doing like...
I was a PMM for Backstage for a while, and PMM is an actual role. I had no idea that I was doing all those things.
Yeah. So yeah, very interesting. And then of course you were yourself the customer success manager. So, so yeah, you're doing like everything around backstage.
At least you should understand. I feel like so Spotify had this concept of T-shaped engineers, T-shapedness, and it was an amazing philosophy they had for every engineer is that there is a depth that every engineer has, but you also need to build breadth. So a lot of the engineers that I worked with were full stack engineers, and that's a thing that I don't like about especially the Indian engineering community, is that everyone is breadth only, everyone is depth only. So you'll find a really amazing front end engineer who hates looking at APIs and doesn't want to talk about how the system works, or you'll find amazing backend engineers who have no concept of front-end APIs and how a web application works. I feel like now you're missing out a lot, because then the UI engineer is putting a lot of business logic in the UI because they don't know what business logic exists in the backend. You're not sharing code, and then you need a third person to bridge these two gaps. So in my mind, I really like OpenAI is like technical member of ऐसा कुछ है, member of technical
Stuff.
Yeah, just be an engineer. Just be an engineer, right? And at Margari, I remember one day I was creating this. I created this API, new API for user KYC something. And I was like कि web में ये एक field दिखाना है कि email is verified. App में ये field दिखाना है कि email is verified. मैंने बना दिया backend API. I created a ticket for the web team. I created the ticket for the application team. दोनों आके बोलते हैं कि एक quarter में नहीं होगा. I'm like, what? I'm just asking you to add a new field. I went ahead, created that PR in the web, created that PR in the React Native code base, and my manager was like, what have you done, man? This is not seen here. So not to boast, but all the time I was there, I was receiving 5 out of 5. And a friend of mine said, ये तो company के history में कभी हुआ ही नहीं. It just means you're just outperforming every time. But all I was doing was just, let's ship this feature. Like, what are we saying? User को लिए it doesn't matter that एक team किया, दूसरा team किया. I have a lot of thoughts around engineering leadership and how teams should be structured. I don't have experience on it, but that's something I'm learning a lot on how to build teams of a particular size.
Okay, yeah. So basically, zooming out of this thing, like for Himanshu to actually be doing this at later stages of his career, to know about React Native, to know about like web development, app development, backend engineering, how APIs work, and all these things, it kind of stems from this fact that in second year, third year, you were just exploring. You were building almost everything, and it was never like, hey, should I just be doing backend engineering? Should I just be doing DSA, or should I just be do everything? Because then later on in your career, you don't know how it's going to come. And so...
Yeah, I remember this. So it was second year, December time frame, right? And December is when everyone goes off on holidays for a month, right? The whole December is a holiday for 30 days. So me, Kshitiz, and a couple more friends, we were in Azad Hall. And Azad Hall had this very large room. We decided ki let's stay for 15-20 days. Each day, we pick a new tech stack. In the morning, we go out, do breakfast, pick a new tech stack. By midnight, we demo something in that tech stack. Man, oh man. And so many things that I still use in my interviews and whatever comes from that day. So tech stacks were, today I want to learn Python. Kshitiz would pick something else. Today I will create a CLI, and a very popular open source project of mine, Ping Me, started then. Today I will create a Chrome extension. Some Chrome extension I created. Today I'll create a application, but only for Android. Next day I will create a Class platform. And I was just picking random technologies. Like today I will do something in Jupyter Notebook. I will learn that. And ultimately you need to be okay with the discomfort. And that's the hacker mindset thing, right? That I can't spend 8 hours reading, because I have to deliver something at the end of the day. So, you remember our senior, Srijit, is an amazing senior. So in my third year, I did GSOC first summer, second summer. Third summer, I had no idea what I'll do. Definitely something useful, but I did not sit for internships and all. I used to look down upon them. And Srijit one day called, hey, I'm working at Ilonic as had just joined the company, and we're looking for an intern. And I said, okay, what's the role and all? Whatever you want, but backend engineering. I said backend engineering. I remember this. And he asked me a very amazing question. In a file system, you're given a file, and you have to find a duplicate. The thing is, I knew the answer from a previous discussion. So sometimes luck helps you, that you just knew the answer and he was impressed. He's a co-founder now in Silicon Valley YC company. So I joined the company, Ilonic, in Bangalore. That was my first time in Koramangala here, 2017 or 18. And 1 week went by and I was doing some backend engineering, which I was very comfortable with. And for some reason, when I'm too comfortable, I get uncomfortable. So I looked at Srijit. I asked him, what are you doing? He said, I'm creating a new iOS app with chat built in. I'm like, oh, chat. What's the biggest challenge when you're building a chat application for users? He said, since it's native, there's a lot of data that you have to put on the phone to make it efficient, which means it depends on the user's phone, right? It's like, this sounds interesting. What are you using? He said, React Native. I said, what's React? That was my conversation. Why are we using React? I have used HTML, CSS before. He started talking about state management, reconciliation, the whole tree of a web page. So this is 12, right? We went out for lunch and we came back. 3 p.m., we were in a room and he was explaining me how the React algorithm works. 4 p.m., he said, go ahead, build a to-do app. Follow this tutorial from React. I was like, okay, I'll give you this by tomorrow. He said, no, 7 p.m. I need it by 2-3 hours. Like, are you serious? I don't even know the tech. I will run Yarn Create app for the first time. And he said, yeah, build it in 2-3 hours. Build this, give me a to-do application or something around clock and something. And I just banged my head on that, created something. And then it was like, yeah, I obviously knew you would not be able to create, but this is the best way to learn is you set very hard goal for yourself. Next day, Srijit went to the CTO, was like, I need him in front end. And now I'm learning all the CSS and there was this amazing person, Arjun, he taught me CSS specificity. For example, if there's multiple ways to select an element, right, by class, by ID and such, what gets higher priority and when? Like, it's such a complex topic because a lot of confusion on CSS comes कि people don't understand कि ये property आ कहाँ से रही है. So he taught me, and very fundamentally he taught me that. He taught me Flexbox. There was a Flex Froggy game and how to arrange things in the layouts because no one had taught all of that ever. So I learned so much about, and I remember all of those questions came in my Spotify interview because I was applying to a very advanced web engineering company, right? And very complex questions. And all of it I learned in this internship, which paid me 18,000 a month, by the way. And I could have easily declined it because my friends were doing 60,000, 80,000, 1 lakh, right? There was ambitious internships to get. But the ultimate value that I got from internship was very high. I followed the things that would make me uncomfortable. I learned new technologies. And yeah, Srijit is still an amazing mentor. I can anytime go and talk about how to build a company and how to get funding.
Yeah, nice. Okay.
What about you, man? Like, you were at Amazon. You could have been at Amazon still.
Yeah.
It's such a good brand, yeah?
Yeah.
What company you work with? I forgot the name. Do these things bother you? Like the brand when you talk to friends and they're like, hey, I'm a Microsoft engineer and I work at Google, and like your childhood friend meets you like, bhai, mujhe to lagta tha you would work at Google. You're so smart.
Yeah. So when I was a child, that might have like affected me a little bit. Of course, like he's working at Google or he's working at Microsoft. But now when I think about it, it's like I know the in and out story of like how it's like to work at Microsoft and Google. Of course, they're like amazing engineers and they are just prioritizing a different part of their life. And I'm just prioritizing a different part of my life. They're like, if you want a little bit of peace, you can work at a good like FANG company and you'll have more structure.
you'll be doing a set amount of things, but then you go work at a startup and you're like, um, I want to do ML. I just want to create models. And they're like, but you know what? You actually need to prepare data. It's like, you need to prepare data. And they're like, oh, yes. And you need to do a lot of horizontal scaling. And you're like, and then, you are working on infra right now. And then you work on like infra for 2 months. And then you're like, yeah, like our API is little slow. Like the Python implementation takes like 10 seconds to output. And you're like, you should write it in CUDA C++. And they're like, oh, okay, never done it. But of course, like then you start doing it and you get yourself uncomfortable for a little while. And the basics are the same. You can read their documentation and then you can, of course, like do it. And then so you're working on the inference side. And then suddenly you're like, hey, our model is doing good, but we need another model which can kind of monitor it. And it's like a very different kind of model. Like, okay. So these breadth of work you are going to do at this place, at startups, it's kind of like very interesting to me. It's very, it gives you just gives you more energy. And for me, it was always like living through experiences. I realized the closer you are to sales, the more learning opportunity you're going to get. So suppose you are working at an internal tool in a company, then it's going to be used by customers who are like internally your users, and you only have your own self driving it. But when you are working at a company which drives the sales, it's like the whole business is being driven by it. And if the revenue is falling, if the customer is angry, it just comes to you and you have like direct feedback and you just work better.
When you say sales, so Jyoti, the CEO of Harness and AppDynamics and all these companies that he had created, so he always talks about it. He says, I was an engineer in India. An Indian, like it's not just engineering, it's everyone in India hates sales. They hate the concept of making money, making profits, and it comes from like the Nehru vision of India, that the Britishers came and they wanted to make money and do business, and it became really bad. So in the new India, let's not trade, let's not do business, let's not think about making money from the government. Everything should be government sponsored. A little bit of socialist idea.
Yeah, we had a socialist mindset.
Yeah.
Till very very late, like 1980s.
Right. And I think that has kind of hurted like this generation, because our parents and everyone around us kind of hates sales, hates the idea of making money, because they relate it with materialism. And the beautiful thing is, now I see both sides. I see, hey, you should not get materialistic, but the money will help you achieve the things that you want to do and the problems that you want to solve. It all depends on how you use the money, right? For example, we get so many ideas of products to build and experiences to improve. Imagine we had $1 billion. We would be able to achieve it, and we would be able to employ people and give back to the society. Now, if we are on path to that, why is this a bad thing? I feel like that's something. And so when you said as an engineer should attach themselves alongside sales and be closer to it, 90% of the people who are watching, they would just immediately shut their ears, because I hate sales and sales is bad and all. But they have to realize that then what are you doing? If you're not providing value to your customers, to your users, then you're working on a hobby project, which is okay, but then no one will pay you for that.
Yeah, and if you're closer to sales, you get like harsh, direct feedback. And yeah, just close the loop, have more feedback. It just gives you something to work on.
Understand how to handle it. And I do sales and customer support a lot in this role as well. I feel like you need to develop personas of yourself when you're doing a certain work. So when I'm in front of my customers, there's pre-sales where I'm more visionary. But as soon as the sale is done, in post-sales, I'm not visionary. I'm implementation driven. what you will be able to achieve in the next month, next 3 months, next 6 months, next year. No grand vision, nothing like that. Let's do it. If otherwise we'll keep talking about it. When I'm in front of a customer support, there's a ticket, someone is mad at what has happened, right? But my first reaction is empathy. Think about the person. The person did not make the decision to buy the product. They are using it. They are told to do a demo next week to leadership. And वो चीजें नहीं काम कर रही हैं, right? They are frustrated, right? Show empathy. Show that you are the person they can rely on, right? And show your name. Don't be the support. Be X, be Himanshu. And then next time they will tell their leadership कि Himanshu had helped me and then this had happened. They will leave the company. They will go to the next company. They will again pitch for your product, or they will pitch for you if you are somewhere else. It's just, and these things just boggle my mind that people remember people. People don't remember companies. You remember Nat Friedman and what he has done. And if he starts a new company, you will know that, hey, the things that he has done for GitHub, he will do somewhere else. You don't, so just be visible, have your own name. Even in engineering, I feel a lot of times, some of our engineers do amazing work and they help out customers. Customers give feedback to our leadership that this person had done it, and those engineers just skyrocket. Their careers skyrocket. Why wouldn't you do it? I mean, I feel like a lot of people are they just don't want change, or they're just shutting their eyes off the things that will actually help them out. The nature is coming to them, right? Like the world is coming to them and they are just not processing very well.
Yep. Very interesting. So yeah, again, zooming out, if you're in second year, make yourself visible.
And go to LS and have a few drinks. It's okay. Don't be the ideal parent's kid. Not go out from campus after midnight, and it's okay if you pull a night out.
Have a
it's
lot of
perfectly
variance.
fine.
Have a lot of variance. One day you're just sitting around in your at your cot, and next day you should be driving to Spiti. Of course, you should be driving to Spiti. Like there is no other way for you to.
Where is Spiti Valley? Is it
Himachal?
Himachal, right? Yeah.
We covered it from Delhi, then Shimla, Kaza, Chandratal, Manali, Kasol, Delhi.
So is the Spiti Valley means Manali and Kasol, these areas?
Oh, so it's kind of like, so when you it's mostly it's vague in my mind, but the whole Kaza area, Chandratal area,
okay,
it's part of Spiti Valley.
Yeah, Manali is good, man. I went there I think 1.5 years ago. Manali, Kasol. I think it's an amazing, it's a different place. Like if you've not seen that part of the country, really interesting.
And guys, you are in your second year, go travel.
Yeah,
traveling is very important.
Absolutely. I feel here's another thing, right? Some things that has helped both you and I is the understanding of different cultures.
Yeah. So you should just go experience different culture, not for experiencing their culture, but also to know nitty-gritty details about your own culture. So because suppose you go somewhere else and you're like, like people are not honking around here. How are they doing it? They're like, people in India honk a lot. And why are they doing it? And then you create some mental model around it. You go and you experience Christianity, and then you're like, in a lot of Hindu households, there is a separate room for prayer, and people just go and meditate there. Oh, this is part of our culture, like just doing things this way.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. For me, that was like the way of living everyone had. But then I was like, no, this is very India specific. Maybe a lot of countries also do it, but it's not as rampant as we suppose it is.
And you can start by you don't have to pay for anything. Just start by listening to songs from different culture, or watching movies, or watching TV series from that culture, and or reading some fiction from that culture. That's the easiest way to start. The second thing you should do, in my opinion, is see the different landscapes in India. So one thing I've always been telling, India has all sorts of landscapes, at least the 90% of the landscapes in the world. From north to south, from east to west, you'll find anything that you want to find. Be it snow, be it very humid, be it very cold, be it hilly areas, be it very clean cities, be it very clean, very lush green, like anything that you would like to find. So even in India, I remember the first time I came to South India, I was blown away by, this is India. People are nicer overall. I think Kerala is one of my favorite states where
It's so green.
it's so green. It's Alepe and all of these areas are beautiful. Overall, I feel the commoners are more happy in these states. The commoners who are selling bananas on the street, they have a smile. I feel this smile is sometimes when I see it lost in those faces, I feel that results in overall society being unhappy. So I was asking this question to my wife a few weeks ago. Why do you think? So someone won. Not someone. Gukesh won the World Chess Championship, and he received like a lot of money from the government, and the tax was exempted and all. I just asked this question: why do you think the government should pay 10 crores to someone who's won chess championship? What's your answer to why does the government sponsor sports? How is it helping the government or the country or the city or the state, anyone who's paying for it? So it's okay. So my answer is it unites people, and that's one of the things government wants. Whenever India plays Pakistan or Australia, no matter what caste and creed and religion you're from in India, you will be united and you will be rooting for the country to win. And that's a very big thing for the country, to avoid internal drama, so that everyone is like happy and working towards it.
Yeah, if you look at history, there were riots going on. It's, I think, Indira Gandhi's assassination or emergency. And then there was an India-Pakistan match and everything subsided for that much time.
Yeah, it happens. So let's say space exploration. If India does well, reach Mars, and if people understand why it's important, it unites people. There's a new energy of trust in science. Children get excited, and a lot of those actually, do that. I feel so. Government actually wants people to be engaged, to be happy. Otherwise, they will just be bombarded with all these things, right? People will be unhappy. There'll be a lot of management issues. No one wants to spend in police. No government wants to have a lot of police around. That's just a waste of money. So if you can just reduce the need for it, then you could use the money in R&D or somewhere else. Yeah. This is another very interesting way of looking at it. So I feel you can judge a country's current and future state based on how happy the commoners are, and how good the public transport is. For example, Japan has one of the most reliable public transports, and you can see that on the streets. Like, the streets are cleaner, less crowded, because the government invested so much money on the public transport. And again, it's a scale problem in India as well. For example, Delhi also has a very good public transport, but still there's so many people. Delhi's population is 3 times Sweden's population. 3 times Sweden's population and 30 times Stockholm's population. So it's just an insane scale that we're living in. But yeah, man, I feel overall you can sense a company's future based on how happy a single engineer is on a desk. And actually, I remember one of the things that people do when you sign a contract with another company, you go in their office, and you see how stressed employees are or how happy employees are. And based on that, sometimes it's a no-go. If your employees are very stressed, it means things will just fall off the crack at any point of time.
Yeah. definitely.
Insane things we're talking about, right?
Insane,
It's,
Yeah.
How's the ML going at? Is there any project you'd like to share that you're working on, and then we'll wrap up soon.
Yeah, I'm working on a music generation thing,
Mm-hmm.
and how it pans out is like, suppose I play piano, and it will just sound more fuller with beats. So can it be that, hey, I have played this piano, and in the same tempo, can an AI generate beats for it, a bass line for it? So yeah, it stems from my own need. So yeah, I'm building it.
Nice, awesome. You are using AI, Gen AI, obviously. I mean, that's what you have to use.
Yeah, it's no buzzword. It's very GPT-2. It's training models. Would have been hard to make it possible like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not using APIs. I'm not using OpenAI.
Yeah.
But trying to build. Yeah, I actually built one model which can generate music. I can condition it, and so yeah, I'm very optimistic that something good will come out of it.
How's 2 things you're looking forward to in 2025? And I'll start. It can be work also. So my 2 things is derive maximum value for users. It means eliminate every manual thing that is happening. When I look at my customers doing something for 10 hours, which could have been done in 10 minutes, I actually I get hurt, because then you have dozens of customers and then everyone is doing it. You see clear waste of time of society, of humanity. Like, it's not unacceptable. So let's say my product has this challenge of you need to populate the catalog from all of the applications you have. You need to populate all the knowledge and everything. Just a waste of time. Just automate it. Automatically discover it, get the user to approve it, and then you're done. So that's one thing which like my product is going through. The other thing is obviously AI will help in this. I've been using it a lot personally also, and just seeing how it will evolve. I have no idea what the end will look like, but that's what I'm looking forward to in like learning and doing from work.
Okay, yeah. So for me, it's just be more proactive. Last year I was proactive, but I kind of think like just be more proactive this time.
Yeah.
And I think it's such a diverse kind of things I want to do. I want to experience the scaling laws, if that makes any sense. But scaling laws is basically you train a small model on a small enough amount of data, and it works. And then there's a paper by OpenAI which says like, hey, if you increase the model parameter size and if you increase the dataset size by this much, you actually are going to improve the model if you are following a predefined set of things. So yeah, basically like scale this particular model, this hobby model I have. So that's there. And then I want to travel a lot. To places I want to. Yeah.
Anywhere you're going next month or soon?
This month I'm going to the States. Most probably in summers I'll be going to Europe, UK, and there's little plans of South America.
Awesome. So if you're watching this from the Bay Area, Nishant will be there soon, and catch up with him.
Let's catch up. This
Yeah.
whole podcast.
And what the fuck is this, man?
Just
like we
one
got
point.
these tripods from Blinkit, and what did we just do? But yeah, looking forward to doing more and creating the, let's say it again, best AI podcast in India.
Yeah. This is just the introduction. We'll dive deeper.
We'll dive deeper and let us know what more would you like to see. And right, man, I got a flight to catch now.
Yeah, man.
And someone very love of my life is waiting on the other side. So see you again in 3 months, and
See you.
See ya. Bye.
Bye. Good one. Nice.
Yeah. Hope everything was recorded.
I hope I did not spoil them.
No, you didn't do anything. So Nishant, what was this and what were we trying to do here?
We're going to order a tripod stand through Blinkit. This is the fucking tripod stand.
And it will arrive in
6 minutes and 12 minutes. So yeah.
So we just wasted an hour trying to set up phone in this motherfucking gap with 2 books. It didn't help. So we'll wait for Blinkit to arrive.